Osh, what's up, Closer fam? You guys know who it is, so let's hop into the recap and jump back into the story as quickly as possible. When we last left off, the tuning exams were an explosive and amazing display of skill and power by the aspiring Genin, where we saw some great battles. But thanks to interference by the Toad Sage, his adopted son, and the least prideful green beast, Orochimaru had decided to pull out of his invasion efforts on the Leaf. But afterwards, he had sprung a brand new plan, one that seems much more dangerous, and the Leaf responds, now. Hiruzen Sarutobi and Jiraiya were completely shocked by what Shizune had told them. Upon asking her to elaborate on what she meant, Shizune explains that they were gambling, and out of nowhere, Orochimaru and a bunch of sound ninja burst into the room. Before even speaking, they began to slaughter the men in the room that were gambling with them in the bloodiest ways possible. As soon as Tsunade had saw the blood, she froze, and Orochimaru knocked her out. He was coming for Shizune as well, but she was smart enough to know that she couldn't fight the Sanin straight up, and reverse summon herself to Katsuyu's home. And from there, she returned to the village to ask for help. Sarutobi was troubled and was still thinking, what could Orochimaru really want? Jiraiya suggests that he may have wanted Tsunade to heal his hands. It was a very superficial wound that he had inflicted on him, but it was a theory. A weak one, but a theory nonetheless. Beyond that, the Snake Sanin no longer had the help of the Sand Village, but they had no info on the Sound Village or who they could be allying themselves with. As much as they hated the Leaf, they could even be allied with the Stone Village at this point. And beyond that, kidnapping Tsunade, who was still affiliated with the Leaf, could be considered as an act of war on top of the already attempted invasion that had been cancelled. The third was growing very weary at Orochimaru being a thorn in his side. Already sick of standing around, Jiraiya stands and announces that they had to go and rescue her, but Sarutobi tells him to relax. From what Ken's interrogation had revealed, Orochimaru had continued his experiments and had created some very powerful Genin based on Dosu and Zaku, so his higher-level shinobi could be extremely dangerous, even for a Sanin, especially if he gets outnumbered. Either way, it wasn't smart to run into a dangerous situation with little intel and no backup, and Jiraiya knows this and does agree with it after taking a deep breath and relaxing. He then gets to run through their next moves. For one thing, the tuning exams have to be cancelled. We can't afford to have our attention divided right now. Beyond that, we have to figure out where Orochimaru even took the princess. From what we learned, the Sound Village is made up of tons of different bases and villages all over, and we need our heavy hitters to form a raid team to take on Orochimaru, as well as multiple search teams to actually find which base is the right one. The third agrees, and he's very proud of his student's judgment, but he is still troubled. This mission sounds like they'll be spreading out their chunin and jonin way too thin, and that could lead to disaster. At the very least, this is an A-ranked mission for those who actually fight the Snake Sanin, and at least a B-ranked mission for those who will be doing the searching. Considering this, Jiraiya comes to another realization. They've got a few pieces on the board that they just have to be brave enough to play. There was Kensuchi, the sound ninja that Naruto had captured. Anko and Ibiki had done their interrogation on her. Surprisingly, the girl was very cooperative after a conversation with Anko. Ken had already given them a bevy of info, so she could possibly give insight on the most likely location for Orochimaru to have taken Tsunade to. Beyond that, they now had seen the potential and skill of their Genin. There were already some tuning material shinobi in that group. Catching on to Jiraiya's line of thought, Hiruzen grunts, realizing what must now happen. The next day, a fully healed Naruto, along with Sasuke and Rock Lee, are called to the Hokage's office. There, Kakashi, Guy, Asuma, Ken, Jiraiya, and the Hokage stand waiting for them. Cutting directly to the chase, the third Hokage debriefs them on the situation and explains that the four of them would be promoted to tuning level. This confuses Naruto and the others as there was only 3 of them there, but then Asuma explains that the 4th person was late, and finally, in walks Shikamaru Nara. These 4 young shinobi had shown the qualities of a chunin, whether it be power, judgment, strategy, or the ability to analyze and separate friend from foe in Naruto's case. Besides that, the exams were cancelled and they needed all hands on deck in this situation. Most high-level shinobi in the village would be away for this mission, so electing more chunin was a necessity right now. These 4 were just the most logical option. But they were also being promoted to justify their possible attendance on a B-rank mission. They would be leading search teams of 1 chunin and 3 Genin. Their mission was surveillance only, and there was absolutely no combat involved whatsoever for these missions. That said, these were completely optional missions. The Hokage was not going to send newly minted chunin into a situation they number 1 did not want to be in, or number 2 might not have been prepared for. Staying back and protecting the village was also very important, and there would be no shame cast on them if they decided to do that. So of course, Lee, Naruto, and Sasuke accept the mission without hesitation, and before Shikamaru can decline, Asuma pulls him off into a corner to speak. Shikamaru is then guilted into agreeing, and the 4 are given their brand new flat jackets. The group then travel to a meeting room where they see their formerly fellow Genin, as well as most of the chunin in the village, and every single jonin and a group of Anbu. Even Baki from the Sand Village and the Sand siblings were in this room. According to the Sand Jonin, their aid was given to the Leaf since they had cut them so much slack for the attempted invasion, and they had contracted this team and a few other Sand Shinobi for aid and protection in the Leaf Village while the Shinobi were away. This is how the teams and the plan is formed. The top Jonin and Anbu will be accompanying Lord Jiraiya. They will wait in a location as close to an equal distance to all the bases Ken knew of as possible. This was the raid and rescue team. This team consisted of Jiraiya, Kakashi, Might Guy, Asuma, Kurenai, and several Anbu in the Hokage's personal guard, and likely Anko and Shizune as well. Scout squads that don't involve our main characters will be made up of one low-level Jonin and two Chunin. Their job was to gather as much information as possible and return, not to engage in any combat. This was also why almost all squads had a Hyuga with them. Naruto and the newly minted Chunin would lead 4-man teams for the sake of safety. On top of that, Ken Suchi and Gar as well as his siblings will be joining what is known as the Konoha 12 to keep the teams even. Our teams go as follows: Team Naruto, Naruto Uzumaki, Gar the Sand, Shino Aburame, and Kankuro. Team Shikamaru, Shikamaru Nara, Choji Akimichi, Ino Yamanaka, and Neji Hyuga. Team Sasuke, Sasuke Uchiha, Sakura Haruno, Ken Suchi, and Kiba Inuzuka. Team Rock Lee, Tamari, Tenten, and Hinata Hyuga. The point of each of these teams is one Chunin leader, a tracker ninja, and at least 2 combat or support ninja just in case. With this done, the Tsunade rescue mission is officially on. During the mission prep before departure, Sasuke approaches Naruto and tells him to give him one of the emergency Shadow Clone shurikens he keeps with him. When questioned why, Sasuke explains that if Naruto gets into trouble, then the clone could tell him, and vice versa. Though to be quite honest, he was pretty much expecting his show off of a best friend to mess up and need his help. Naruto grumbles, but thinks it's a pretty good idea, and gives a shuriken to each of the new Chunin teams. If anything happened to them, they would destroy these shuriken, and this would alert the other teams to come and help them out. The mission begins and all the teams set out. That said, Naruto is the main character of the story, so you know what's going to happen here. The other teams come upon their bases and find nothing of note, and report this back to the raid team. Meanwhile, after the departure of all the teams, 2 men enter the Leaf Village, as casually as any civilian. They quickly take notice that the village is lacking in most of its shinobi. The taller of the men snarks that he knew this would be boring, and his companion tells him to be quiet and keep looking around. What Kisame Hoshigaki does not see is a crow flying from his partner Itachi's robe and towards the Hokage's tower. Hiruzen Sarutobi was currently smoking on his pipe. He hit it well, but he was very nervous and anxious. Jiraiya had actually declined his offer to join the raid team. Granted, he did it in a mostly respectful way, for Jiraiya at least, but it still hit him. His student had truly grown to the point of not needing his sensei to cover his ass anymore. In fact, it was possible he might have even surpassed him at this point. Needless to say, becoming a dad had really changed Jiraiya. The old Kage then blows out a plume of smoke that clouds his vision for a split second, and there, he finds himself at the Uchiha compound. And not the run-down abandoned version that you would find nowadays, but the bustling, life-filled section of the village. He leans against a wall, and soon hears a voice that he hadn't heard for a good while.
Hello, Lord Third.
Itachi Uchiha, hero of the Hidden Leaf. It is good to see you.
How's Sasuke? I can't seem to find him. If Danzo's even tried to speak to him, I'll...
Young man, I am in your debt. But do not take my gratitude to you as weakness. My word is absolute. As the Hokage, as a shinobi, as your countryman, and as a man who also seeks to protect his family, Danzo has been kept as far away from your brother as realistically possible. And I intend to keep it that way. Sasuke has just gone on his first B-rank mission after being promoted to Chunin.
Good job, little brother. Thank you, Lord Third. But I actually have information you need to know. The organization I joined, the Akatsuki, they're finally ready to make their move.
Itachi went on to give the Third just about every single bit of information he had learned, as much info on his fellow Akatsuki members that he had learned without drawing any suspicion to himself, as well as their current goal. Thankfully, this genjutsu could stress the perception of time, so Itachi was able to be very detailed with this explanation.
The Jinchuriki, a fourth war. I'm getting too old for this.
I have to go now. In order to keep my cover, I must at least make an attempt on the Nine Tails.
I can't allow you to hurt him, Itachi.
My apologies, sir. But my partner and I have already started tracking him.
With that, Sarutobi wakes from his illusion, but at this point, he knew he'd be way too slow to stop Itachi. Back on the mission, almost all the bases that Ken had known about have come up as either being empty or Tsunade just isn't there. When Naruto's team arrives for their base, Shino sends in a few of his insects for infiltration. The insects are able to do a pretty good search, but then find one room that they just refuse to enter. They rush back to Shino soon after and explain that they found an ominous chakra there that they're way too scared of. From here, Gar takes over and forms an eye of sand inside the room to see what he sees.
I see a blonde woman. She's doing something to a boy with white hair, with a man with silver hair. A man with black hair is on another table, but he is dead. His chest is cut open.
And that's all Naruto needed to hear, and he quickly expels one of his shadow clones. The shadow clone that was with Jiraiya's group relays that they found Tsunade, and that Orochimaru was seemingly dead already. The shinobi wastes no time and begin to converge on Naruto's current position. Shino, then guessing that Naruto might want to stay and fight, explains that it would be most logical for the group to leave, having completed their task. But Gar then creates a sand dome around the group, and it is soon punctured with shuriken and kunai.
It's too late for that. We've been spotted. Everyone, prepare for battle. Naruto, you may need to tell your friends as well. We may need their help.
Naruto agrees with this and destroys the clone shuriken. This means that Lee, Shikamaru, and Sasuke's teams will be informed that Naruto's team is under attack and will probably come and try and help. The battle truly begins when Gar shoots out his sand to counter their attackers. He then opens the back of his sand dome for his teammates to escape and regroup. When out of the protective dome, they see 4 shinobi in similar garb. They explain that they couldn't allow these weaklings to interfere with their leader's plans. Naruto, still agreeing with Shino, orders the team to continue their retreat, but then yellow arrow-like projectiles begin to fly at the group. Gar's sand shield is just barely able to block these as well. As this happens, a fist crashes through the new sand dome, and a big guy breaks past it. Naruto grunts and rushes him, ordering his team that they're going to have to fight this one out. He then begins to take on Jirobo while the others scatter. Shino eyes the arachnid archer, Kidomaru, and likely says something badass about spiders and that he apologizes for his aggression in the coming fight, but he had recently suffered a rather embarrassing loss. Kankuro then releases his repaired puppet and explains that he's really been needing a punching bag since his latest loss to Tenten. He's also wanted to try a new trick that he thought of recently. This causes Seikon to laugh and he decides he wants to take him on. Gar approaches the redheaded Tsuyuya and likely just says something about wanting to protect his new friends. Now, to put it simply, I think Naruto would take out Jirobo extremely easily. He's the weakest of the Sound 4, and even with the level 2 curse mark, I don't think he is a good matchup for this version of Naruto. Not to mention, he's already stronger than the canon version of Choji at this point. The big brute soon realizes the differences in power and tries to transform, but a Rasengan is shoved into his gut, scrambling his organs around and blasting him forward with enough force to make a crater and a huge gouge in the earth. He's down for the count. That said, Naruto was hoping that wouldn't be a kill shot. If he and Jiraiya could study those curse marks, maybe they could find a way to get it off Sasuke and Miss Anko, or possibly improve it and take away the negative effects. He then asks his comrades to try and spare those who they could as he runs over to provide help to those who might need it. Kankuro is able to defeat Seikon and Ukon in canon, and this Kankuro is a bit more motivated even though he does not have the black ant puppet with him right now, though he could easily receive help from Naruto. I could honestly see him trying to kill the duo or at least one of them before Naruto can interfere though. Either way, this is still a really bad matchup for Seikon and Ukon. Tsuyuya versus Gaara would be an interesting fight to see, but if it's a long range fight, then Gaara has it pretty much covered. If it's close range, then Tsuyuya is in deep trouble. I would also argue that after having his seal improved by Jiraiya, Gaara is number 1, more well rested, which could increase his reaction speed and thought process and result in just an overall increase in power. And number 2, he would likely fight with a less lethal style like we see him doing in part 2 of the series once he loses the One Tails, since the influence of it isn't always constant like it used to be. But either way, if Naruto asked him to spare her, I have no doubt that Gaara would spare Tsuyuya. Finally, Kidomaru is defeated single-handedly by Shino. Kidomaru is likely the smartest of the Sound 4, seeing as how he fought against Neji and how easily he dissects him apart and finds out the blind spot in the Byakugan. That said, there's also the fact that Kidomaru's webs have chakra in them and could be eaten by Shino's insects. After his loss to Sakura, Shino has already thought of ways to improve his colony, and devouring these webs is giving him another idea extremely quickly. Not to mention, taking on Shino in a long-range fight is a huge mistake, as evidenced by his fight with Kankuro. Kidomaru is forced to use the Curse Mark's power extremely quickly and summons his spiders, but once again, this is a terrible matchup for the Sound Ninja. Shino's insects make quick work of the spiders, especially when they try to converge on Shino himself, only for his body to burst into beetles and to begin to actually devour the spiders, or rather the chakra used to summon them to their location. Slowly but surely, the arachnids stop moving and attacking Shino. It was almost like they were disobeying Kidomaru himself, and he is already flustered enough to try and transform fully, but out of nowhere, his massive spider summon began to turn on him. He created a weapon to attack it, but as he lifts his arms, a kunai is slipped into his side, just barely missing his vital organs. Shino presses the blade in further and pushes his glasses up as he explains himself. Most people think that spiders are insects. This is illogical and wrong. Arachnids is the proper name. Because of this, they do not share a hive mind like many other insect species do. They are not your soldiers. To use them as such is illogical. My insects are completely submissive and obedient towards me, but I would never place them in a situation to die knowingly. He then twisted the kunai in even further as a rare flash of emotion crossed his brow. And my connection with my insects gives me the unique ability to somewhat communicate with similar creatures, just like that big spider summon you have. It turns out he doesn't like needlessly seeing his friends destroyed for your gain. In other words, your sacrifices have become my allies. Kidomaru was on the verge of passing out from blood loss, but Shino wasn't letting him off that easily and smashed the back of his fist into his nose, really knocking him out. He then orders his new and old allies to cover the Sound 4 and webs to restrain them. The other members of his team, save for Gar, are a bit creeped out by this, but very impressed, and they let Shino know it. As the battle literally wraps up, Jiraiya and his raid team arrive, but so do Team Sasuke, Team Shikamaru, and Team Lee. Jiraiya and the Jonin then tell the kids to leave immediately and make their way into the base. At this, Sasuke and Lee grumble that they never even got any action and begin to travel back to the Leaf with the others. All Chunin teams were directed to converge back to the village and be on standby after the real base was found. A group of Naruto clones would carry the captured Sound 4, and during their journey, Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura reunite to speak. Sakura finally congratulates her teammates on their promotion, and Naruto tells Sasuke about why he'd even captured the Sound 4, interesting about the prospect of making that power his own. Thinking about it more critically, Naruto questions Ken on who these 4 people were, and she tells him, but she's very nervous. For Orochimaru to have assembled the 4 must mean that he's protecting something very precious, and it also must mean that their 5th member was not very far behind them. The large convoy of 16 ninja, a group of Naruto clones, and their prisoners are halted because on the very next branch that they're about to jump to, it is already occupied by 2 men in black cloaks with red clouds.
Long time no see, little brother. Oh, and congratulations on your promotion.
Sasuke's Sharingan flashes to life in pure rage, and Naruto, hearing the term little brother, also feels rage, but tries to stay a little more logical than his friend, whose hand was already covered in the powerful electricity of the lightning blade, as he charged towards Itachi Uchiha. Back in Orochimaru's base, any sound ninja that stood in the way of this powerful group is quickly put down. Finally, they reach the room that Naruto's clone had told them to go to. They break in and find Tsunade in the corner of the room, sobbing about Dan and Naoki. Shizune moves over to her master to try and comfort her, while Jiraiya and the others begin to survey the room, and they see the flayed corpse of Orochimaru. Uncle approaches it and realizes something. All of Orochimaru's organs are gone. Chuckling then rings out in the room, and the shinobi prepare for battle as 2 figures walk out of the shadows. They both had white hair. Kabuto, who everyone at this point recognized pretty well, but the other one, no one did. It was a boy with long white hair that couldn't have been much older than 17, but the cold snake-like eyes and his dark, insane chuckle was all too familiar. Orochimaru welcomed them, as he grew a long bone from his hand, creating a sword with it. They would make wonderful guinea pigs for his new body. This is gonna hurt. Guys, that's where I'm leaving the timeline off for right now. Now, I am 120% aware that this is a terrible cliffhanger, but trust me, I really have to do it this way. I just can't afford to use this entire 17-page script in one video for you guys. I also know the Sound 4 fight was a bit lax other than the Kidomaru versus Shino bit, but trust me, there is a reason for this, and you'll see that in Act 2. Act 2 is actually going to close up this arc, and I'm considering shoving some more into that because it'll be a bit boring to make a side story out of what I have to do with that, but that depends on how I'm feeling while I'm writing. The wait won't be too horrible, but you won't get this Act 2 as fast as you got the last one. It's just not possible this time. For those of you who might be watching this in the future, you're lucky, aren't you? Comment, haha, I'm lucky, and fuel that sweet algorithm for me. In lighter news, an absolutely massive shout out to my amazing voice actors, Jredd Trex, who's a really long-term and good friend of mine. This was actually his first time voicing a character that wasn't from Dragon Ball for me, and he did a really good job, so I'm very happy he did it at all. AceTheWindRider, who actually got in contact through the audition thing, he has recently played the roles of Raditz, Green Lantern, and The Flash in Geek for Fun's Goku and DC series. Super glad to have met him. He did an amazing job as Gar. I'm very happy to have him on the team. And finally, making his first ever attempt at any type of voice acting and doing a damn fine job of it as Itachi Uchiha, we have my new friend, Oxnagadaba. He did a really good job. His impression and his audition tape was super funny, and that's part of why he got the job. He also just sounds like Itachi Uchiha to me. So extremely happy that he gave this as his first shot at doing any type of voice acting. Hoping he'll keep going with it, and hoping I can get him back on the channel at some point to do some more. You can find these guys all in the description below. Please go in and follow them on Twitter, YouTube, whatever they have. Support these guys so they can get bigger and bigger and make this a real career for themselves. Aside from that, you guys need to go follow me on Twitter, point blank. I have so few followers, so I really cater to those guys that do follow me over there. They receive a lot of sneak peeks and previews before anyone else. It's super easy to join that club. Be sure to just go follow. It's all down in the description at almighty_dev. And there's a bunch of other links in the description for you guys to go and support that stuff as well. Very easy to do. And if you guys think I might have messed up anything based on Naruto lore, then please let me know down in the comment section below. I'm by no means an expert on the entire series, and sometimes my imagination runs over with cool stuff to do narratively that I might miss some stuff up based on the actual canonical story. Lastly, a massive shout out to my patrons. In the hero tier, we have Lomu Quaid, Treb, and newly, Zio Returns. In the shinobi tier, we have Knuckles OX, Pizza 15X, and the beyond tier, we have Robert Smith and Xander Tribby. Thank you guys so much for supporting the channel directly. It really does mean a lot to me. With that out of the way, there is nothing left to say, but please take care of yourselves. And as always, go beyond plus ultra. Believe it, and see you guys next time.